Hey folks, Tim DeMella. It's been a little while since I've done one of these. Today I want to talk about the moralities of life versus the world. Life versus the world. The world has moralities that whoever is in power, wishes to impose on you for whatever they desire. But the greatest power in all the world is in here. And that presence gives you the wisdom to know the difference between what in the world is loving and being done that is loving for you, and that which isn't. That which is not, you are not constrained by. You are free from those because they are conditionally loving. They are not unconditionally loving. Okay, let me give you an example. Say you come to a stop sign. Okay, now you can look at that stop sign at an intersection and say, and ask yourself, why is that stop sign there? And you can say, well, that stop sign's there. The wisdom, not the ego. Your ego would say, well, somebody just wants me to stop for some reason, and who needs a stop sign there? I know better. But the wisdom is that it's an intersection, and somebody put that stop sign there to keep you safe. That's a loving thing, and the morality is that to keep people that I'm in service to safe. Okay, and so that's good. That's unconditionally loving. So that's fine. Okay. But a example of the other way is I need to get divorced because the person that I'm married to beats me. The morality of the world may say, it doesn't matter, you are married under God and there shall be no divorce. Another one is that so that's being constrained by religion, constrained by the world of law, the world's law. Well, we're going to make it so that if you try to get a divorce, you have to go through a divorce attorney, and it's going to cost you thousands and thousands, or maybe tens of thousands of dollars, especially if you have children. And once that happens, you will lose all. One of the spouses will lose all their insurance, and so forth and so on and everything. And but you don't have. But this day and age, who has the money of tens and thousands and thousands and thousands? So you're caged in. So is that fair? Is that a loving moral thing that, well, that's how it is, so you got to stay married and you got to be with the person who beats you, because that's the moral way. And that is actually not moral. That is immoral. And that is not conditionally loving. That is not unconditionally loving. That is conditionally loving, because other people are making a morality for you to live by and not giving you a choice and not to get out of it. That is immoral. And that is a worldly moral thing. Okay? You are not bound by that. Okay? Because you have the presence of unconditional love in here. You are not bound by that. So if you get divorced, and in here is the right thing to do, in here, not in here. In here is where all that was put into your conscience, of right and wrong. But in here is the power of truth. So if you need to be divorced, be divorced. And if be divorced without going through the courts. And if the world says, no, you can't do that, too bad. I'm leaving and I am divorced. I'm spiritually divorced. Worldly, maybe not. Legally, maybe not. But I am. And if somebody says, well, then, you're going to lose your insurance. No, I'm not. Well, now you can't do both. You can't just leave without certain consequences. And the world doesn't, the law. And it's like, no, I did. I'm gone. And it's like, so your husband or your wife, your spouse, agreed? Yeah, we agreed. We're divorced. You can't be just divorced because the insurance companies need to know. Need to know what? They don't need to know anything. Well, then it's fraud. It's not fraud. You are constraining me in morality. That's fraud. So instead of living in the worldly morality, I choose the spiritual morality, which is unconditionally loving, and not your worldly morals, immorality, being conditionally loving. So, too bad. It's like, well, we can't do anything about that because lawfully you're still married. Yeah, legally to the world, I am. But spiritually, I'm not. And I don't live in your world of constraints. I live in a free world of spiritual, with the wisdom to know what in the world benefits the safety of me and is a loving thing for me, like that stop sign. Okay. And to obey those laws that are loving. But those laws that are not loving and are only good for maybe a group of people, or whatever, I am not bound to. They don't register. But by going with the spiritual, you can't do anything about that to me, because I'm still legally within your law, but I don't live your law. And you, being in the world, are bounded by that law that even you made. And I'm not. You see? And that's the difference between unconditional love and conditional love. I'm not bound by any law that does not love me unconditionally. Period. So that's what I'm talking about, is that if you want to be free, do not think that the only way is to be governed by all these laws and constraints of morality. That you must come under the thumb of those that make the laws. Because you don't. Because you don't. In fact, by going the spiritual route of unconditional love, it actually, the web that they weaved, it actually catches them inside their own web that they wove. You see what I'm talking about? They think they have the power, but the web that they wanted to catch everybody else in, by going the spiritual route, they have caught themselves in, and they can't get out of. Because they're the ones that put the law into effect. That was the champion of that law. You see? You use the law against them. The immoral law uses it against them. You are free from those laws. You are free. Don't fight it. Don't try to fight, protest a life against the world. Because what you're doing is what you're saying is, I cannot leave your world unless I obey your laws in leaving it. And that means I need your permission to leave. And guess what? You're never going to get their permission. Because it's an immoral law. You're never going to get their permission. You'll be waiting all your life. No. You go with here and you follow this. This is the law. This is the truth. This is the love. This is who you follow. And only this is who you follow. With the wisdom that it gave you. And the love that it gives you. Unconditionally. That is the power above all. And that you're done. Do not try to leave the worldly way. Just leave the spiritual way. Oh yes, the vast majority of the world will hate you. Oh yes, they'll say you're not conforming. That's not right. Businesses will fail, whatsoever. They're all talking about worldly things, aren't they? Because they are so into the world, they don't know any other way, and they so love that world, they don't even know that they're being conditionally loved, that it's immoral in itself. They have blinders on. They can't see. They're blind. So, if you want to be free, be free. But the thing is you have to have this presence. And why is that? Because that presence is the power over any power on earth. It is the highest power. Higher than the Supreme Court. Higher than the highest powers in the world. That is the power. And that, which unconditionally loves you, is what you shall follow. And not anybody else underneath that power. That makes you a unconditionally loving person, which will make you very unpopular in the world. You would think you'd be able to, people will listen, like listening to me and say, oh, I'm free? Wow, I can't believe it. You'd think everybody would go for that. Everybody would be like, yes. You'd be very surprised. The vast majority will not. Won't listen to me. Even if I'm saying this and it's true, the vast majority will not go with that. So, just telling you right now, there's not a lot of people like that. So, it could be a bit lonely, but you're free. Yeah, it may seem you're a little free while you're in the world, as long as you do this and do that and all that, and you're good. But folks, things change. And the people in power change. Those laws are not concrete. They are not set in stone. They can change in a heartbeat to whoever's in power, their way of thinking, their way of wanting, their way of doing, their way of thinking the way you should be. They change, and they do all the time. But the law of the unconditionally loving presence in you does not change, because it's truth. Unconditional love is the truth, and that doesn't change. And that's what frees you, because you don't have to ever worry that that law that comes from that which is within is ever going to change, because it won't, because it's unconditional. It's freeing. It frees you. And that's the advocate in here. That's what it wants you to be, free. So why would it revoke a law that wouldn't make you free? It already has the law in place to where you are free. And that's what unconditional means. I live in an unconditional world. I don't live in the world. I don't live in the world's morality. I live in the unconditional love's morality, with the wisdom that it gave me to see the difference between the world and life, true life itself. Once you have gained that wisdom, you will see everything that I'm talking about. Right now, I may sound crazy, but I guarantee you I'm not. I'm free. And whatever you people the world tries to do to me doesn't matter, because I know that as things come, I take it at hand, I try to understand it, and be the fairest person I can be when I understand it that has come to me. Weed out what's right, immoral, according to unconditional love. What's unconditionally loving and what's not unconditionally loving. And then I do everything that's unconditionally loving. And the world will not like that. But for the most part, they'll pretty much leave you alone, because they think you're just one small little whatever, and it's like whatever, just whatever. Okay. Most of the time that will be. But sometimes when you get these really narcissistic people, very highly narcissistic people who want the power and everything, they can't stand that you get away with what they can't get away with because they made the law. Or they agree with somebody else's power, law, morality, or whatever. Okay? So they just be jealous of you. And they'll go after you and say, no, you can't. Of course you can't. Of course you can. You can't do anything about it. So, not in this country anyway. That's why the United States is one of the best countries to live in, if you believe in life and not world. And unfortunately, in these days, that's not the case. There's so many more the other way. It seems like, in a way. But you understand what I'm saying, though? So, if you want to be free, you are free. All you have to do is believe that there's something in here that loves you unconditionally, and it's the supreme power. You just can't go by and say, well, no, I'm just not going to obey the law because I don't like the government. Or whatever, No. See, then there's no wisdom that comes from the presence in here. There's good people that have made moral, unconditionally loving things in the world to help you, to keep you safe. All right? So that's the wisdom. So you need that presence, and you need to have a connection with that presence to know its wisdom of how it sees the world versus life. Okay, without it, that doesn't work. That's just all arrogance and ego of, well, I don't like that law. Too bad. But don't you want to understand that law? Is it a law of conditional love or unconditional love? Is it there to keep me safe from me being ignorant? Or is it there to keep me constrained from leaving? That's what you have to think about. So once you get a connection in here, boom. Further and further and further your connection. I give you the steps I took. Whether they're the steps for you, you decide. But as you progress, let's say, with being more intimate and connected to your presence in here, you will understand what I'm saying, and you'll wind up free. And one day you will wind up free. So that's it. Thanks for listening all this time. I really do appreciate it, and I love you. Bye.